Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Peter, and this is a story that completely changed my life. I never thought I'd be sitting here talking about how my marriage fell apart. But when the woman you love, the mother of your children, makes a decision so reckless, so unbelievably selfish, it forces you to take a hard look at everything. So let me take you through everything that happened, how I handled it, and why, in the end, she was the one left with regret. When I married Joan, we sat down and had long conversations about what we expected for marriage, family, and the roles we would play. I was already doing well financially, so we agreed that she wouldn't have to work. We wanted our kids to have a stable home where they'd always have their mother around, someone who would give them full attention, care for them, and be involved in every stage of their childhood. I made sure she had everything she needed, a beautiful home, financial security, and even household help so she wouldn't feel overwhelmed. Over the next 9 years, we built what I thought was a solid family. We had 3 kids, and after the third, we both agreed that was enough. 3 felt right, and we were happy with the life we had created. Of course, like any marriage, we had our ups and downs, but nothing unusual. There were disagreements, stressful days, and moments when we got on each other's nerves, but that's just life. Nothing ever made me feel like our foundation was crumbling. But things took a turn after our youngest turned 3. Joan would step out in the afternoons without saying where she was going. I'd come home from work expecting to see her with the kids, only to find the house quiet. No sign of Joan, just our children, waiting for a mother who didn't bother to tell them when she'd be back. The first time my eldest called me at work, I thought it was a mistake. "Dad, Mom's not home. She's been gone for a while." I told him not to worry. Maybe she was stuck in traffic or something. But then it happened again and again. Each time, the calls grew more anxious. My son, just a kid himself, was forced into a position no child should be in, watching over his younger siblings, wondering why his mother had disappeared for hours. I started calling Joan whenever I got those calls. But my calls would go straight to voicemail. When she finally answered, her tone was casual, almost dismissive. "Oh, I just stepped out for a bit," she'd say. No real explanation. And when I asked her where she went, she'd brush it off, "Just out to get something." That was it. I tried to talk to her about it, told her that it wasn't safe to leave the kids alone. Our youngest was only 3. What if something happened? What if there was an emergency? Joan barely reacted, telling me I was overreacting. "They're fine. It's not like I'm leaving them for the whole day." That was the moment I realized something had shifted. This wasn't the Joan I married. The woman who once planned every detail of our kids' lives now acted like they were an afterthought. And no matter how many times I tried to reason with her, she refused to see the problem. One Saturday afternoon, I was home with the kids playing in the living room. Joan came to join us, scrolling through her phone. After a while, she sighed. I asked her what was wrong, and at first, she just shrugged it off. But when I pressed a little, she finally spoke. "Peter, I feel drained," she said. "I love our kids, but sometimes I just feel trapped." I thought we were happy. But now, my wife is sitting across from me, saying she felt stuck in the very life we had both chosen. I tried to be understanding. I told her that if she needed a break, we could plan a family vacation. Just us and the kids, maybe even bring a nanny along to help. A change of scenery, time to relax. I thought that was the issue. She just needed a breather. But she shook her head. "No, I don't want a family trip. I want a girls' trip." I asked her what she meant, and that's when it all started making sense. She wanted to travel with some of her old friends who, from what I had seen, didn't exactly live the most responsible lifestyles. Most of them were unmarried, always partying, drinking, club hopping, and in some of their Instagram pictures, they were with different men on different occasions. I wasn't comfortable with it, and I told her straight up, "Joan, I don't think that's a good idea. These friends of yours, I see the kind of things they do when they travel. It's drinking, partying, and God knows what else. You're a married woman, a mother of 3. A trip like that sets the wrong precedent." She didn't take that well. The second I said no, she got defensive, raising her voice, saying I was being controlling, that I didn't trust her, that she was still her own person, and didn't have to ask for permission to live her life. It turned into this whole dramatic meltdown. She accused me of trying to cage her in, of not caring about her happiness, of making her feel like she was just a babysitter instead of a person. I kept calm and told her I wasn't trying to stop her from having fun, but I had to think about what was best for our family. If she needed a break, we could go somewhere together as a family. But she ignored it, storming out of the room, refusing to talk about it anymore. A few days later, I was knee-deep in work, focused on wrapping up a project, when my phone rang. It was the school. When I picked up, the teacher's voice was laced with concern. "Mr. Carter, no one has come to pick up your kids. We've been trying to reach your wife, but she's not answering." I was worried. Joan was supposed to pick them up. She always did. My mind jumped to the worst-case scenario. I immediately called her. No answer. Texted her. No response. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Panic took over. I grabbed my keys, barely remembering to tell my boss I had an emergency. The drive to the school felt like forever. Every possible scenario ran through my head. By the time I took the kids home, I was already mentally preparing to go to the police if I didn't find her soon. When I arrived, the kids were sitting with one of the teachers, their backpacks at their feet. The moment they saw me, they ran up, relief written all over their faces. "Where's Mom?" one of them asked. That was the question of the hour. I had no answer. I got them in the car and drove home as fast as I could. The house was quiet when we walked in, and when I stepped into the kitchen, I saw a folded paper sitting on the counter. I opened it and started reading. Joan had left for the girls' trip. She wrote that she needed this trip and that she deserved a break after all the years of being a stay-at-home mom. She said she knew I didn't approve, but she was going anyway. I had to read the letter twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She knew I didn't want her to go and how I felt about those friends. And yet, she went ahead and did it anyway. Not only that, but she didn't even make arrangements for the kids. She just left. Despite my anger, a wave of relief washed over me for a brief moment. At least she wasn't lying in a ditch somewhere. That night, I barely slept. I tried to make sense of it. I asked myself over and over again, what could possibly be so important about this trip that she was willing to risk everything? Was it the drinking? The parties? The chance to relive her old life? And if so, when did our family become a burden to her instead of a priority? By the time the sun came up, I had my answer. I wasn't going to waste my energy trying to understand someone who had made it clear where her priorities lay. She made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The next morning, I called my boss and took emergency leave. There was no way I was leaving my kids alone again. My first priority was getting them the care they needed. I hired a nanny who could help stabilize the home while I sorted everything out. Next, I contacted a lawyer. I explained everything. The letter, the call from a school, the fact that Joan had made no arrangements for the children's care before disappearing. My lawyer told me I had a strong case to file for emergency custody. I didn't hesitate. Then, I cut off her access to my money. The joint account? Frozen. I refused to let her finance her selfish getaway with the same money meant to take care of our home and children. If she wanted to party in Hawaii, she could figure out how to pay for it herself. While all of this was happening, I documented everything. I saved the letter she left behind, which is a written confession of her actions. I got a copy of the call log from the school, proving she failed to pick up our children, and most importantly, the emotional impact on our kids. It didn't take long for the stress to affect them. My youngest fell sick from all the anxiety. He kept crying for his mother, confused and scared. The older two weren't much better. My oldest, being the most aware, came to me one night and asked a question I'll never forget. Why did Mom choose a vacation over us? By the time the 7 days were up, things had shifted in the house. The kids were adjusting. They had a nanny who showed up when she was supposed to. They were slowly accepting the new reality. And honestly, so was I. When Joan walked through the front door, she was anything but apologetic. She threw her bags down, looked around the house, then turned to me with a scowl. The first thing out of her mouth wasn't about the kids, wasn't about how things had been while she was gone. No. She was furious that I had frozen the joint account and why her card wasn't working. I had to borrow money just to survive that trip, Peter, she snapped. I expect you to pay me back for every single dollar I had to spend. I didn't give her the satisfaction of reacting. Instead, I reached over to the kitchen counter, picked up the envelope I had been waiting to give her, and silently handed it to her. She snatched it and tore the envelope open, then laughed. Divorce papers, she scoffed, shaking her head like I was a joke. You're really this dramatic? Peter, come on. You're not serious. She refused to sign it, thinking I was bluffing, that this was just another argument we'd eventually move past. But when reality set in, her attitude changed. She lawyered up fast, ready to fight me for custody of the kids. She claimed I was being controlling and vindictive for cutting her off financially. She tried to paint herself as a loving mother who just needed a break, but the facts weren't on her side. Since I had filed first, I already had temporary custody. That meant the kids stayed with me while the court sorted everything out. Joan was forced to move out of the house. She started bouncing between friends' places, but that didn't last long. The court process dragged on for months. Divorce cases always do, especially when custody is involved. Joan tried every argument she could. She claimed she had been the primary caregiver, that I was too busy with work to raise the kids. But my lawyer came prepared. We presented call logs showing how many times the school had to contact me because she was missing. We showed proof of her disappearing acts, the letters she left behind, and the fact that I had to scramble for a nanny because she abandoned our children. The judge didn't have to dig deep to see who was the stable parent. The kids also had a say. By this point, they had already adjusted to the new routine. The oldest one, especially, was old enough to understand what had happened. When they were asked where they wanted to live, they said they felt safe and stable with me. That was the final nail in Joan's case. The court granted me full custody. Joan was given supervised visitation, meaning she could only see the kids under strict conditions and for limited time periods. That broke her. Without me supporting her financially, her life crumbled fast. She had no job, no savings, and now, legal bills piling up from a custody fight she lost. She tried to demand spousal support, but the court didn't buy it. She was an able-bodied adult who had chosen not to work, and that wasn't my problem anymore. She had to figure it out on her own. She maxed out whatever credit she had left, borrowed money from friends who quickly stopped answering her calls, and before long, she was drowning in debt. That's when the regret hit. She started calling, texting, begging me to reconsider. She said she made a mistake, that she never meant for things to go this far. She promised she would be a better wife, a better mother. But I wasn't interested in empty promises. By the time she showed up at my house and tried to speak, I let her talk. I let her pour out every excuse, every apology, every desperate plea. Peter, I was overwhelmed. I wasn't thinking straight. I never meant to hurt you or the kids. I just needed a break, but I see now that I went about it the wrong way. I let her finish. Then, I reminded her of what she had said to me not long ago. You told me you were tired of being a mother, Joan. You said you felt trapped in motherhood. She shook her head, tears spilling over. I didn't mean it like that. I love our kids. I cut her off. Well, now you're free. No kids to trap you. No husband to hold you back. Congratulations. The look on her face? Devastation. It was sinking in. She tried again, reaching for my hand. Peter, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. I'll be better. Just tell me what to do. I pulled away. Joan, you made your choice. You chose your freedom. Now live with it. Go work. Make your own money. Take as many girls' trips as you want. That's what you wanted, right? She broke. Right there on my doorstep. Hands covering her face. I stepped back inside, leaving her out there. Looking back at everything that happened, I can tell you one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a trip. It was about priorities and respect. So, before I wrap this up, I want to share 3 lessons I learned the hard way. First, a parent who prioritizes fun over family will lose everything. Being a parent is a choice. Nobody forces you into it. And once you make that choice, Your kids don't get to be an afterthought. You don't get to press pause on them when it's inconvenient. Parenthood isn't a part-time job. It's not something you clock in and out of when you feel like it. When she decided to walk away from her responsibilities, I made sure she lost the privilege of being a full-time mother. And that's the reality. When you put yourself first at the expense of your kids, there will be consequences. Second, if someone shows you they don't value you, believe them. I used to make excuses for Joan. But the truth was right in front of me. She was selfish. She wanted the security of a family, the benefits of a stable home, but she also wanted the freedom to act like she didn't have a husband and kids waiting for her. And when someone keeps proving to you that they don't respect you or what you provide, it's on you to stop ignoring the signs. People don't change just because you want them to. They only change when they want to. And sometimes they never do. And third, never tolerate disrespect. The moment they cross that line, it only gets worse. The more you let someone get away with it, the more they'll push their limits. The moment my wife put herself above our family, I acted. So, I want to ask you, what do you think? What would you have done in my situation? If you were in my shoes, would you have handled it the same way? Or do you think I was too harsh? Let me know in the comments. And with that, we've come to the end of the story. Thanks for watching and sticking with me through this. I appreciate every single one of you. If you've ever dealt with a situation like this, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below, and let's talk about it. I'll leave you with this. Marriage is a partnership, not a sacrifice for one person's selfish desires. If they choose to walk away from their responsibilities, let them. Just don't be there when they come crawling back.